Welcome to Together We Seek. I'm JJ DiGeronimo, and each week I bring to you some of the most amazing light workers, healers, mystics, and souls that hold ancient wisdom that help us here on our journey. And I am so excited today to talk to Dr. Karyn Shanks. Hi, Dr. Karyn. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this conversation. So many people have family members or friends, or maybe it is even themselves listening that deal with chronic illness. And we are talking today about the healing equilibrium. And this is so important because I feel like so many of us hold so much energy inside of us, and sometimes that metamorphoses into chronic illness. So, how do you see chronic illness showing up in the body?
I see it as a way the body has organized itself around its conditions, the life conditions from birth, from before birth and onward. And it's kind of when you stop and think about it, it's like, yeah, the body adapts to its environment. It adapts to what it's exposed to how we live our lives. So over time, the body wants to survive. The body, nature wants to survive. It's sort of the intrinsic, impulse in all of nature that runs through our bodies. And over time, we organize ourselves around what's happened to us. And so, chronic illness is a place that we land on that continuum, that equilibrium, I often call it, which is really just about, it's about how our bodies balance themselves around the conditions that they've experienced. And I think we can make the assumption that when we have organized ourselves as chronic illness, which is protective actually, and we can explore that in a little more depth. That's where the body feels the most safe, given all the conditions, which could be, how we've been eating our entire lives, our level of movement, the amount of stress and trauma that we've been exposed to, everything, all life experience is held in the body and shows up in the body. So that's how I look at chronic illness. And when we see it that way, it becomes alive and dynamic. It's not a thing that happens to us. It's not a part that breaks. It's not a bad gene that, we can't do anything about. It's this dynamic process that we have an enormous measure of control over. So, we can learn to shift that equilibrium out of chronic illness toward repair, recovery, and resilience.
Wow, that's powerful. And I know people that have people in their life that have chronic illness, and that almost seems impossible to some people. And the reason I love that you're here is that you are a physician, but you also are an author and you're a teacher, and you have been working to help people move to this healing equilibrium. So, could you talk a little bit about what that is and how it relates to illness?
I think healing equilibrium is, we're always on a healing equilibrium. That's the primary impulse of all nature, of the human organism, is to heal, is to move toward, greater wholeness. It's there. We can't not be on a healing path, and we can't not be healing, but we get stuck at points. Because the conditions don't change. So however our body has organized itself around what is going on, it feels like it's staying in place. We feel really, really stuck. It feels impossible, but it is dynamic. And so we can consciously tend to our healing. We can consciously tend to that equilibrium of healing and push it toward repair, begin to shift out of that stuck chronic illness and move it toward repair processes, and eventually towards a sense of restoration and resilience that we experience as like moving out of chronic illness, moving into something that feels more like ourselves and how we were meant to be.
And so, I mean, repair, I'm sure, looks different for everybody because you have to dig through the stories, dig through the experiences, figure out the energy that you're holding.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
but like, if people have been in chronic illness for a while or have had illness or energy stuck in their body that's presenting in different ways, like mentally, how much time do they have to really think about addressing this? Like, how long does it take to shift? How long does it really take to kind of get into a different way of living?
Right. It takes as long as it takes. And that, sorry, there's no biohacking here. There's no magic bullet. We're trying to get away from magic bullets. So this is about how our entire organism has organized itself over a lifetime. So, but it's getting present with where we're at, kind of accepting where we're at, how we feel, what's going on, becoming observant to that, and then just learning, how do we start to make little shifts? We're not, and we don't want to push healing. We don't want to force healing. We don't want to make grandstand plays that are going to like propel us into healing overnight or, into resilience overnight. It's just not how it works. So, it's just about like beginning a very steady, grounded process of figuring out what is going to lead us into repair. And we might need help figuring that out. We might need some, really, smart and caring person or people, a whole team of people to help us figure that out. But a lot of it isn't rocket science. I think a lot of it, when we just stop to think about it's pretty obvious. We need more sleep. We need to slow down. We need to pause. We need a little meditation practice. We need, there's just, I think that's pretty obvious to most of us. But I think a lot of people who feel stuck in chronic illness don't realize how powerful those things are in the process of their moving into repair and recovery.
So powerful. And the reason I love this conversation so much is so many of the people that have visited me here on this podcast have had to heal themselves before they can help heal others.
That's right.
Did that happen to you?
Yes, and still today, always healing myself, always learning something from that process, and finding myself in that old thought process of, oh yeah, I'm broken and need to be fixed. It's like in the water, right? it's a cultural narrative, and our conventional healthcare system kind of perpetuates that. When we're sick, we're broken, we go to the expert who fixes us with a drug or something, whatever. Sometimes it's great. Most of the time, for chronic problems, it's not really what we need. So yes, I've been through a lot of my own journeys and have learned a great deal. Yeah.
Which is beautiful. I think it's beautiful because once you heal yourself, you can heal others. And I just pulled together the 6 phases of spiritual awakening that I just put into a recent book. Mm-hmm. And so much of the phases came from the guests because they've had to move through this journey before they could teach others. And I just love how you use the word personal agency. And and I just want to explore that more for people listening, because I think people who might find this are either know someone with chronic illness or have chronic illness, and they're like, okay, I can get some more sleep and maybe I can eat a little bit better, but I don't see that healing. So what is personal agency?
Personal agency is being able to have the capacity to check in with yourself, to understand what your needs are, or to begin to learn what your needs are. Sometimes it's hard to know exactly what our needs are. And then to honor those needs, and then begin to be able to ask for help to get our needs met. And to get to the point where we're so comfortable with that we just insist on that. And when we land in an environment where our needs aren't being met, or where our energy is being drained, whatever it is, we know how to get ourselves out of there. So we just learn how to maneuver ourselves in all the arenas of our lives, kind of honoring and respecting who we are and what we need. That's how I view personal agency.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I think that for a lot of people, the relationships that we're in, the work that we're doing, the free work that we're doing, um, sometimes the boundaries are just not in place to support ourselves.
And boundaries are key to having personal agency. Like
Mhm.
we must, and learning just to be present and whole. We have to have boundaries around our energy, boundaries around our time. I think all the boundaries come down to energetic boundaries, don't they? So, right? I mean, but we can think of them as boundaries around our time. So you told me how long this interview is going to be. Boom, we're probably going to stick to it, and that's really important. Boundaries around our physical space, boundaries around you know boundaries around the time and attention we choose to give to ourselves, right? We can talk about all kinds of different boundaries. They're so important.
They are so
They're
important
so
and
important.
so important. And I'm a really big believer in frequency and energy. And if you want
Yes,
to shift the outside, you have to shift the inside.
100%. 100%. And you you don't even have to think in terms of frequency. For people who don't think that way, it's simply honoring and respecting yourself, and taking and making self-care your number one priority, because then you've got that energy and vitality to put out there into the world, right?
Yes, completely. And I see a lot of women actually, they want to do it, but money gets in the way. And they're like, well, I just don't want to spend the money on myself, or I don't want to take time away from my family. And I feel like for women, a lot of women, they hamstring themselves because they don't want to spend time or money, not realizing that investment will triple if they take care of themselves.
Sure, but they can start with things that are free. They can go to bed
Mhm.
on time. They can leave chores undone. They can ask their family for help, right? I mean, there are so many things that we can do to take care of ourselves that really don't require us spending any money at all. And they can be the hardest, right? Because they're in our own homes, right? And how I can't tell you how many clients I have, especially women, who cannot get enough sleep because they cannot give themselves permission to let things go and go to bed at a time that suits them. I mean, that sounds so simple, but it really is very, very challenging for people. And if you don't have enough sleep, I don't care how spiritual you are, you're not going to feel, you know what I mean? You're not going to feel very vibrant. Talk about frequency. You're not going to feel like you have much of a frequency if you're not getting enough sleep. It's just a non-negotiable thing.
So interesting. Like, who thinks about that? I know, Ariana did a lot of things around sleep because she like passed out, with Huffington Post. She passed out at her
Yeah.
desk because she just wasn't
Right.
getting enough sleep.
Right.
So, yeah, so let's just explore this a little bit more because so many people do things to be seen, to be recognized, to matter, they say yes to people not because they really want to do something, but they want to be wanted or they want to feel like they're valuable. So,
Mm-hmm.
when women are going through and men too, but when you're going through this healing process, how important is it that you build sort of like a team around you and you're not muddling through it yourself? Because I can only imagine how lonely that would feel.
Absolutely. I think, and part of what we're doing, I think, when we're repairing and healing is we're reconnecting. We're reconnecting to ourselves, but it's also about allowing connection in other realms, connecting with others. I don't think we're meant to heal alone. I mean, indigenous people healed in villages with many people, and we've lost that in our more modern, fast-paced, high-tech society. We've lost the connections, and I think that's part of the crux of why we are in this crisis of chronic illness, is that we've lost connection with ourselves and with a way of being, and taking care of ourselves. So to get more directly to your question, I think it's really important to ask for help and to find people you can trust who can give you good advice and help guide you on whatever sort of healing path you might be on. And it might be multiple people. I at any time have a bunch of people on my team. You know, there's the therapist, there's the shamanic healer, there's the functional medicine doctor. I mean, it can be many people helping us address many facets of what we need.
Well, I love that because I've visited over 100 practitioners over the last decade, really just to learn and find areas in my body that I was holding energy, tension, stories that were no longer serving me. And it was quite a journey. And I've met some amazing people. And so when people hear you, obviously want to know how they can connect with you, but what should they be looking for in a practitioner? Maybe they've been going to the same doctor for a while, but nothing's really working. Like, what are they looking for in maybe the first or second person in a team to help them move through or out of this state?
Sure. So somebody who's dealing with some kind of chronic condition, I think it's good to have a healthcare practitioner. And I'm a big fan of the functional medicine approach, whole person, mind, body, spirit, how our body interacts with the environment. A very important way of looking at human beings and what's going on with them. So and there are more and more functional medicine practitioners out there in communities all over the world, actually. So not hard to find. Physicians, nurse practitioners, all levels of practitioners. So that, I think that would be a key player in anyone with a chronic condition. You can still have your primary care person who your insurance is covering, who's in your network, and maybe that is the person who opens the door to getting lab tests done that your insurance will cover and what have you. And then, body workers, chiropractors, massage therapists, psychotherapists, energy workers and there's so many different kinds of all of those folks. I mean, yeah. And, find out who's out there. If you have no idea how to start this, I think word of mouth referrals are great. And surely the listeners have friends and family who might be able to recommend somebody, or go online and see who's in your community and listen to your body, get an intuitive hit. Okay, that person sounds really interesting, and reach out and see. And maybe it will work out, maybe it won't. But so building that team is a process for sure.
It's beautiful. And something I've been doing the whole time is sharing the people I've been working with, because trusted, recommended people are instrumental. And I didn't have that when I started my process over 10 years ago. I literally was just pecking around. Like, I'll start with this person. And then once I liked them, like, can you send me to somebody else? And I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of these people have been sort of word of mouth and hidden, but things are starting to emerge more. And one of the goals I have with this podcast is to share all these amazing practitioners with the listeners, because I had such a hard time finding people like you. And I think the world needs to know more about people like you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And that's really helpful for all the folks who've visited you on your website and on your podcast. More and more energy workers, spiritual healers have websites these days. So it's becoming easier to find people now that we're or they're on social media. You'll find them. You'll be able to find the people in your community.
Well, if somebody wants to find you, I mean, you just have your new book, Unbroken, come out just a couple months ago. That's on Amazon. But how do people reach out to you? I have your links below, but what's the best way to reach out to you?
My website is my hub, so you can see what I'm doing there. I am on Instagram and Facebook minimally. Like, I don't personally go there very often, but I post and share things. So social media to me is just like, it's a big rabbit hole. So yeah, I'm not on there much, but I make announcements. I have a new online platform that is kind of born from the book Unbroken. That's going to be free, and it's going to be how how to navigate this journey of getting to know what you need so that you can shift out of chronic illness more into, into repair, restoration, and resilience in the middle of creating that. And that should be up in a couple months. But my website and my social media will have those announcements.
Well, excellent. And when the platform comes up, let me know. I'll add that.
Okay. Yep.
The description. And I just really appreciate you joining us and talking about how your journey has led you to the work you're doing today, helping people move towards a healthy equilibrium and move away from the chronic illness that many experience.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Well, I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you again, Dr. Karyn, with us here. For everyone who's listening, please take a look at Karyn's links below, reach out to her, join her free platform, and even check out her books on Amazon. This is how we help heal each other and align with a higher frequency and a higher light. So thank you so much for joining the Together We Seek podcast, and we'll see you again here next time.